Hi, I'm Skylar. I decided to watch the movie and do my presentation on A Beautiful Mind and the disorder schizophrenia. This movie is about a brilliant mathematician who is eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia and goes to win a Nobel Prize later on. I've always had a big interest in this disorder. I actually did a research paper on it my sophomore year for my English class. For our questions, number one asks, what psychological disorder was illustrated in this film? Did the person meet the criteria for abnormal in this portrayal? I answered, this psychological disorder displayed in this film is schizophrenia. I believe that John Nash did show a lot of abnormal behavior that led up to schizophrenia. He showed many serious symptoms of schizophrenia. Number two, what symptoms of mental illness did you see in this movie? After considering typical symptoms and behaviors for this disorder, determine the extent to which you believe this was a realistic portrayal of the disorder. In this film, there are very many symptoms that John Nash experiences. The moments in the film where he is paranoid is one of them. Also, he experiences lots of hallucinations and delusions. He made up in his mind in the movie that he had this roommate that he eventually had a really close bond with, and he also the roommate also had a niece that was never real. He also believed that he was a spy and was very close with another spy, which he really wasn't. Number three, were any causal factors for the character's disorder suggested in this film? If so, which ones? If not, this would be a great area to use your required resources. It is not known what causes schizophrenia, is what I found in research, but the Mayo Clinic staff stated that they believe it is caused by a combination of genetics, brain chemistry, and environment, and the environment contributes to the development of the disorder. It is also believed that it is caused by natural brain chemicals such as dopamine and glutamate. Neuroimaging studies have shown differences in brain structure and central nervous system of people with schizophrenia. Number four asks, what types of treatments, if any, did the person in the film receive? Provide specific examples. Based on what you've learned, is this form typical for individuals with this disorder? Why or why not? John Nash receives a treatment that shortened version is called ICT, which it's actually, the full name is insulin coma therapy, also known as insulin shock therapy. Insulin coma therapy was a psychiatric treatment in which doctors would inject large doses of insulin to produce comas. How long they did this to a patient and how much it depended on the case, how bad the case was. Nash had to go through insulin coma therapy 5 days a week for 10 weeks. And this is not a typical treatment in the West anymore, but it was one of the first successful treatments for schizophrenia, along with electroshock therapy. And John Nash actually turned down electroshock therapy because he didn't want to lose his memory. Number five, what impact did the person's disorder have on others in his, her, or her life? Do you think the impact was realistically portrayed? Why or why not? His wife had the most impact, is what I personally believe, and I do believe it was realistically portrayed. In research, I found that his wife Alicia suffered depression, and they also got a divorce because of this. And she had to suffer watching him being admitted into all these different hospitals. Number six, after viewing the movie, what do you think it would be like to live with this mental illness? I believe living with this mental illness would be a really hard thing to do. Especially, I think the hardest thing is when you learn that you have made up all this in your head and you learn that those close bonds you had weren't actually real. I think that would kind of be a heartbreaker too, but other than that, it would just be hard to deal with. Number 7, what was your overall reaction to the movie and how mental illness was portrayed? I was really shocked after watching the movie. I thought they did a great job at making his hallucinations seem very real. I had no idea that his roommate was fake and the niece and the spy. So it was definitely a shock, and I think it gave a really good portrayal of how it's like to be someone with schizophrenia and how real it is to you. Schizophrenia can be a very hard and unfortunate thing to live with, but I believe this movie gives you a good feeling that there can be positive effects to it, considering he won a Nobel Prize, and I believe that schizophrenia was kind of the genius behind who he was.